Let's f***ing roll. All right, good day, everybody. Welcome back. We're in the McMaster studio. You're listening to the SaltyMF GOAT Podcast. I'm Brad Banyas. I'll be your host. Today, we're really excited to talk to someone who started a nonprofit in the veteran world. It's called atlvets.org, Advance the Line. So we're so excited to talk to Zack Knight today. So Zack, welcome to the show, brother.
Appreciate you having me, man. Excited to do it.
Yeah, man. It's funny. We're big proponents of obviously our military personnel, and my dad was in the military. I've been around military guys. I was not because I was a troublemaker, but it's just we really believe in just the people that serve our country, men and women, and specifically the vets that come back and are trying to kind of evolve back into, corporate world or society. And I know that's what your passion is and what your nonprofit does. And dude, I would just go into it. Tell us about it. It's awesome.
Man, you hear the story, right, of every veteran. Every veteran has a story of terrible transition. Yeah. I got kicked out, I got whatever, and then there's nothing to catch them on the other side. And then I started talking to more senior leaders that were getting out 30 years in, and there's nothing on the other side. Yeah. So imagine 30 years in or 20 years in, you're 38, 45, something like that. Great career, but you're not ready to die. You're not ready to retire. Yeah. What are you going to do at that point, right? Yeah. And they have no clue. So a lot of what we wanted to do with Advance the Line is like, how do we help that continuity plan of transition over? Because my transition was terrible. And I had businesses, I was active duty, had several businesses, scaled several businesses very well. On paper, massively successful. Got kicked out at 30, medically retired at 32. A little bit different. You might have got kicked out. I was medically retired at 32, but it felt like you were getting kicked out, right? Yeah. I have nerve damage in my arm, can't carry a rifle anymore, can't shoot accurately type of thing. And they're like, you can't be infantry anymore. So I guess you got to get out or go be a paper pusher and like go do numbers. I'm like, I'm not going to do that part. So got medically retired and then just had like a tumbleweed. In the wind, man, just kept going, couldn't find what I wanted to do, and was mad about it all, mad at every aspect of it. So the organization's really there for that high-achieving veteran who wants to continue high-achieving after the uniform.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of my partners, God bless his soul, Tom Orton, he's now gone, but he was one of my business partners for almost 30 years, super guy. He was in the Army, and he was in Vietnam, and they had him in some kind of admin thing, but he was pretty good with numbers. Yeah. So I want to say that he made quite a bit of, he's gone, so you can't do anything to him. Made quite a bit of money in the Army on bookie. He was a good bookie. So
there you go.
Tom, you're the man, brother. Peace.
I was gonna say, we don't say that. Just like we don't use the H word. We don't haze anybody. No, we don't talk about that stuff.
But it's interesting because we've had several veteran-related business type people, guys that were kind of OGA and Green Berets and things like that, and specifically Chris Cathers with Brothers Keepers Veteran Foundation, super nice guy. Check those guys out. They help veteran suicide and vets deal with those things just like you do, coming out what to do. And we were talking about just purpose, right? Like you have a pretty defined role, whatever service you're in, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, whatever it may be, and then you get out and it's like a whole different set of rules.
100%.
Right? What gets you killed in the service world doesn't get you killed in the corporate world, and it's a totally different mindset. So I know that I love your 4 pillars. You want to talk a little bit about them because I think they're relative to the real world. They're relative to everybody.
They are, and what I wanted to do the most is make it all relatable. Yeah. Because people look at, I deployed in 2019 with the Green Berets. That's where I got injured. And people look at my story. I wrote a book about it, released it about 2 years ago, and it's that transition story. Yeah. And people were reading it. My editor read it, civilian. She had no idea about that part. And she was a client. We were helping her start her publishing company, and she read it. She's like, this isn't related. Like she said she cried during the first reading, right? Like, holy crap, I can't believe this dude just went through all this, and I've never known this about him. And then she's also like, I don't know how it would be relatable to civilian. Yeah. And it kind of took me aside. I'm like, well, I know every guy I know has a story like this. Right. So struggle, or my dad's a Vietnam guy. What did the Vietnam guys come back to, right? You see the struggle across the board, but she said it was completely unrelatable. So a big piece that we want to make it is relatable to civilians. So you don't sympathize for us. Yeah. Don't even empathize. Understand that we're a totally different caliber of individual. If you can highlight the certain optimized pieces
Right.
were awesome assets. And it goes into our 4 pillars of marketing, mindset, movement, and money management. Yeah. It's the 4 things I think veterans struggle with the most. Because it's also like the 4 things that the military does for you. And you never have to think about it. And it goes into so many other pieces, but the relatable piece here is a professional athlete. When 10 years later, they lose the uniform, then what, right? Or you have so many different transition pieces in life where your identity is that piece. First responders, I was a cop here in Atlanta before the military, same thing. You lose the uniform, then what? And you start looking at the statistics attached to it. Police officers, 35 years in, have heart attacks by 55 when they retire because they stop moving. They have no new renewed purpose, no new passion. Veterans, same way. They ended up doing something dumb or the 22 a day. Athletes, same thing. And a shared piece attached to those 3 things are TBIs, head injuries, injuries in general where your body's just beaten down. But we don't know how to market ourselves. Our mindset starts slipping, right? Because now you're in this space where silence is deafening, right? Then you look at a movement piece. You have veterans that get super lazy or stay motivated. I'm still a 4 a.m. guy, but I'm not in the best shape I've ever been in. Like I'm not paid to run anymore, so I'm not running. And then money management, where are you getting money from? How are you managing that money? How are you do you need to go get a new career or, and again, in the military, it's handed to you. You don't have to worry about retirement. You don't have to worry about so many things. On the civilian space, you have to start worrying about it, but you've never been taught those things. So most of our programming is built off those 4 pillars on a very high level, a heightened level, not a here's a resume, fill it out, right? And there are great organizations that do that. I'll call them out every once in a while because we do have good partnerships with them. We're not that. We're the MBA to their fill out your resume and this will work for you. We're the ones that want to teach guys. This is how you actually go market yourself. This is how you get on a podcast, tell your story, tell the different aspects attached to things. Here's the mindset you need. Here's the shift in mentality. And guess what? You have to invest in your own development now. You don't have to do that in the military. And it's a total paradigm shift compared to the handout veteran community we have. It's like, here's the hand up, but you're going to have to keep working for it.
Absolutely.
And that's a total shift.
Absolutely. And you made a good point, like around athletes that kind of, and that happens at all phases. You play college and then you go on to be a pro. So we got involved in this NIL space, name, image, and likeness. And a lot of things, like you were saying, your 4 pillars really make sense there because out of the 650,000 collegiate athletes, they're not all going pro, right? And NIL was kind of created to help them kind of do that, learn to market themselves, right? And get into that, learn money management, right? That kind of thing. Movement, most of them are still athletes, so they're moving. But I think those 4 pillars that you have as an organization apply across. It's not just, for what's going on with the veterans, it applies to the general public. And I really just thought that was good pillars, great pillars.
Every once in a while, I have like a stroke of genius, and I'm like, I want this to make sense, but also be easy enough to remember. What are the 4 M's? Here we go. And then money management used to be just money. I'm like, well, that's weird. What are we doing with money and money management? Like, it works. So we have the M's across.
It's ingenious, man. It can be its own book. We can write a book. Let's do the book after that.
Trust me, the first book I wrote took forever. Working on the second one, it's been like 5 years now that I've been working on it.
Well, we just had an author on, Philip Barlag. He was on, and he's a history guy on Roman history and emperors. And so that was the first thing. It was the feedback. We just launched it yesterday, and feedback's been awesome. Like, oh wow, that's really cool, So, but he was given the same sentiment. He's like, I like the podcast side because he's got his own podcast. So he's like, I like the podcast side because I have the information. I can tell the story. He goes, the book side, it's a tough road.
It's so bad. And writer's block is a thing. Editing block, you have to reread it so many times. Now they want me to go back and do an Audible version. And my mom always said I have a face made for radio. So I need to do like an Audible version. And I'm like, now I have to reread it chapter by chapter, word by word. I'm like, oh, it's terrible. But you have to do it at this point.
Mom, thanks for the encouragement.
Thanks, Mom. Appreciate that so much. You
have a face for radio. Wow, okay, Mom, that's a compliment.
Well, thank God podcasting became a thing. So I'm good now. Except for all the cameras we have everywhere.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, I'm an ugly son of a bitch. It's okay. People are like, oh, this poor bastard. Let's listen to him. Literally. At the McBastard studio here. But, so I know that you guys are working a lot with corporate. So who are some of your really good corporate supporters? Because it's obviously important. We work with a lot of people in some other businesses like Salesforce that have VetForce, and they've got, you know, things kind of built in to kind of engage or get that veteran community involved. Who's been some great, you know, if you don't want to go there, man.
Oh, I'll go there. I'll go there. But I'm telling you, my board's going to yell at me for this.
All right, well,
but
just scrap the fucking question.
No. It's an interesting thing because it's not like I'm necessarily researching the piece of it, but you can see the ebbs and flows. And I love data and analytics attached to certain things. Numbers people pull it for me. Yeah. And then I read all the data attached to it. But you look at where technically, while we might be at war for the last 30 or 40 years, technically, people don't think that we're at war. When I deployed in 2019, nobody had any idea, like, wait, you're going to Afghanistan? Why? What's going on over there?
Well, because we've been in war there for 20 years.
Right. And I ran ops every 4 days. We were kinetic every 4 days. We lost 2 guys in the first 4 weeks. We were very kinetic. Yeah. Nobody had a clue. So the sympathizing of veteran support, especially in the corporate space, isn't the hot topic right now. We go back to combat, and all of a sudden, you're going to see those things. Oh, we're supporting veterans, military.
Yeah, some of it's bullshit.
Right? So that's a little bit of a disappointment at times. And we're, you know, smaller, newer, younger.
Right.
So we've had some great partnerships to limited capacities, but we did a good job of getting tied in, especially here in Atlanta. We've expanded into 7 states. But here in Atlanta, we got really well tied in with the military programming at UPS, Home Depot, Delta, Truist, really the 1450s, because they all do have a really good head of military programming. They've kind of built that piece out for recruitment, retainment. I would say the best one is Home Depot, man. If you look at their model attached to things, it's fascinating to see how much they have the foundation side that supports veteran homelessness. They do a great job. Project near Six Flags. Yeah. They actually just did groundbreaking on a couple months ago. It's awesome to see that piece. Hard to break into that piece, if that makes sense, because there's so many things going.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, there's, you know, the thing about it, like I was looking at it when I just started looking at all the different veteran programs, you know, because obviously we're having people on, so I better really kind of figure out, you know, what the hell. I usually don't know what I'm talking about anyways, but at least have some idea what the hell I'm talking about.
There's 10 million results. Because you Google veteran programs and
there's a ton.
We all do one, right? Like it's dime a dozen.
There's a ton. And you would think, though, you know, from a data perspective and a correlation perspective, that with all this, you know, forget the VA side of it. We won't even go into that. But yeah, we won't talk about
whole can of worms right there.
Yeah, we won't dig into that can of worms. But the reality of it is, you look at all these programs and you would think like, well, shit, man, these guys are covered up. And the reality of it, with the suicide rates and the things that are showing and the homelessness and all this other stuff, it ain't matching up.
And that's the paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Right. There are too many organizations that want to do free for vets. We'll give you. But you're fostering the expectation of free. And I don't have to work for something. I'm entitled, right? That entitlement, especially these days, seeing veterans come out, they served 3 or 4 years, didn't hit a combat zone, didn't do much more than stay on base. God bless them. They're still of that percentile that signed up, right? But also, like, what are your entitlements? But you foster this culture attached to it. And where we really hone in and where we differentiate a good bit is that we focus on mid-management executive level. Yeah. So our transition piece is for the mostly colonels, lieutenant colonels, high enlisted, flag officers every once in a while. But we found that there's a niche there of high achieving, high performing, been doing it for a minute. So like with the Green Beret side, all of that's redacted. Yeah. So it's not like I can write a resume based off what I did in Afghanistan, right? So how do you create a conversation about a soldier or a SEAL, right? We have Jack Carr coming in a couple weeks for an event. Awesome. His whole background, completely redacted. But then you look at what he's done with Terminal List on Netflix and his book series. He's such a phenomenal concept to look at of like, well, that's a SEAL. They're kind of telling a story through Terminal List, but not really telling a story, right?
Yeah, these events are not true.
No, not at all. We change all the names from Bob to Bib, But it's just it's funny to see how that's the concept. Is like we're kind of covered up, but nobody holds us accountable anymore, and we're designed in the military to be held accountable for everything. Right. Like you step on the grass, and that first sergeant is going to come chew your ass, right? But then you get out here, and it's almost like we're patted on the shoulder, and like, I'm disabled, quote unquote, or I have PTSD. All the things coming back from Afghanistan, it's like, here's your PTSD card, here's your blah, 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 blah. It's frustrating because then that's the expectation. You get essentially labeled as damaged goods, even in the civilian space, because people have these preconceived notions of veterans. And that's the piece I want to shift is like, hold us accountable to, if we're in your corporation, how are you optimizing that veteran? A lot of that goes to, are you holding them accountable and then empowering them to succeed in that organization in a different way? The psychology behind it's fascinating, and I can like go off on tangents about that, but
absolutely.
That's where we want to shift it. Is like there's a whole lot there where we don't do anything for free for vets. There might be $97 a month, but there's a little smidge there that you're going to have skin in the game. You're not just going to show up and eat free food. That stuff right there drives me nuts.
Well, I also think that when you're looking at it, it makes sense. I mean, obviously, you know, as structured as maybe the corporate world is perceived.
It's terrible.
It's really not.
It's so bad
and
in comparison.
I mean, it's not. I spent about 2 or 3 years in the corporate world, and then I knew that I was not the ideal person to be there. But I think that you know the struggle in that there is structure, but the value to me, like as being a business guy, an entrepreneur guy, the value to me is like, can you manage people, or can you deal with people, or can you deal with high stressful situations? And, you know, for the most part, I mean, if you're serving in a place like Afghanistan, Iraq, wherever it may be, you know, you've been in some pretty high stress situations dealing with, you know, keeping people alive, right? And I mean, to me, you know, everyone talks about resume. I think the world's shifting a little bit, which is great. Education is, I encourage everyone to be educated. Even if you don't go to school or college, at least read or find a subject you like and apprentice, because you can do it. You don't have to have a degree to be smart. But I think a lot of that's kind of shifting where they want people that are just workers. They want people that are, you know,
a little bit of street smarts attached to it.
Right? You know how to deal with this. Think out of the box, whatever it may be. But I think that's good for, you know, these guys and gals coming out of these mid levels, because I see that as a positive, right? As someone who's, I know they're going to be loyal, which in the corporate world, sorry corporate world, this is not bashing the corporate world. There ain't a whole lot of loyalty going on, right? You know,
especially with the millennial generation. Like it used to be the expectation: 30 years, stay in a career, do all the things.
Get a watch.
You know, the millennial generation, we've shifted that a good bit of where we hop and skip a little bit. But it's almost like you have to for advancement. Absolutely. Where the corporation wants to keep you where you're doing really well, but then there's no like advancement there. So
absolutely,
it's kind of a weird same thing. I've never really been in corporate either. But I do enough consulting in that side to like sit in on a meeting in a corporation, and the lack of like agendas in a meeting, and you talk for an hour, and it's like a roundtable discussion, like nothing gets accomplished. That stuff drives me nuts.
It's right. Well, because you're results oriented, right? That's a good thing about coming out of the military. There's an objective, you know, there's a mission, there's a result that we expect.
Very well,
right? Yeah. And so, you know, I grew up in sales, and, you know, everyone can say, oh, your pipeline, and you have to have this in your pipeline. That's all bullshit too, reality. I mean, you know, but they try to structure it, but, you know, there's so many variables in the world, in a corporate world, especially for sales or whatever. I mean, you're dealing with people. You're dealing with people and budgets and things that you can't have control of. And I think that's scary to a lot of people, even young people coming up that aren't military. But guess what? It's life. It's okay. I mean,
learn to deal with it.
It ain't going to work out sometimes.
It ain't going to change either. So, like, go ahead and accept it.
Just get into it. Go for it.
Absolutely.
So, I saw that you guys are doing a lot of things, too, on the movement. I know that your lovely significant other, and I won't go, you know, to the married thing yet.
Everybody calls her my wife. I got a text yesterday, bro, we're flying to Tampa. We're hosting an event Tuesday in Tampa, but we're also going to the Special Forces Charitable Trust, great organization for Green Berets. We have a good partnership we're working on there, and they wanted us to come do a masquerade ball down there this weekend. So I told my girl about it, and the executive director sent me a text. Hey, make sure you share this with your wife. So I just screenshotted it and sent it to Taylor, and she's like, you better not correct her. If anybody calls me your wife, you better say it now.
Sorry, Taylor. I don't mean to get into this. We're going into this personal shit. I don't mean to do that.
Oh, dude, we can get personal. If I don't call her out and I don't shout her out, she's going to listen to this and she'll be like, you're such a jackass. Why do you talk about me?
I was going to give her kudos and say that she's running the fitness program around some of the events you've done, and she does a hell of a job. I mean, that was it, T. That's
she does that too. Yeah, obviously. You know, it's so funny. Personal life, not personal life. Veterans struggle in that space. Law enforcement struggles in that space. She's phenomenal, man.
Yeah.
And I make jokes every time we do one of these workouts. People are like, "How tough is it?" Like, well, it's team based.
Yeah.
And what we do, a lot of times we'll use sandbags because in Afghanistan, it's mostly what we had. So sandbags had handles on them, just like old school, like unbalanced weight, and you have to shift it. But we do it teams 3 or 4, and it's all about like moving the team, moving the weight, doing stuff together. And she owns a corporate wellness company, DT Corporate Wellness, where she does that for organizations, all based around team building exercises. So when she runs the workouts for us, it kind of gives the veteran that same feeling that we had in the military. Then a civilian gets to work with a veteran to accomplish these things. But I always make the joke, she's the prettiest drill sergeant I've ever had, and she loves making men cry.
Yeah.
Like she gets off on that right there.
Here's my money. Hold on, where do I sign up?
Hey, careful, because one of her clients is not far from here, and she will pop in and make you do push-ups in the middle of one of these recordings.
That's all right. I kind of like that aggressiveness.
You say that until you wake up next to it, and it starts at 4:30 every morning.
Well, anyways, I wanted to go. I knew that you guys had that kind of physical aspect to kind of some of the things you're doing, and I think that's great because just fitness in general. It just keep you. I heard you on a podcast. I listened to some of your stuff, and you're just talking about getting your endorphins going in the morning. And I mean, it is so good for you for that psychological side, not just physically looking good.
Dude, I notice a huge difference personally. All of our pillars really intermingle. There are cross points in every one of them. And I know the days I don't work out, my mindset's in the toilet.
Absolutely.
Like if I don't have that one piece, that's one thing I very heavily carried from the military. Waking up at 4:30 in the morning, first thing I do is have a couple of morning routine things, but first task of the day is go to the gym. So I'm in the gym by 5:30 every single morning. And if I don't do it, and I don't start my day that way, say there's a Sunday where she's like, let's stay in bed. Yeah. We have a beautiful woman in a warm bed. Yeah. Every once in a while, you don't leave it, right?
This podcast is going to an area that's going to get really interesting, but
I mean, it is the McBastard studio, like a little bit of saltiness here, right? But joking aside, like if I don't do that and I don't get active, I notice a huge difference. And I think a lot of veterans understand that because we're ingrained in that piece right there. So if we can maintain that, and I think movement's such an important piece to it all.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, even I was an athlete when I was younger, and you get through life, you have kids, all this stuff, and I will say ballooned to a 280, and man, I was miserable. Yeah. I just woke up one day, I was like, dude, what the fuck am I doing?
And I'm not like the most lean and mean right now.
Yeah.
I'm more built for feed than speed right now.
I'm not going to beat you in a speed walking contest, but you can still do something.
I can outlift you. I might do that far.
I can still lift,
And you saw Taylor; she's not a small girl, so I have to be able to throw her over my shoulder every once in a while.
Yeah, man, she's a soccer champion, man.
Softball, national champion.
National.
Yeah. So
sorry, T.
Yeah, she's going to be insulted by that, right? Here in North Georgia.
She's probably going to be here outside when I walk.
I hear the tires screeching. Watch out. She's tracking my location right now. I know it.
You're host, dude.
Man. No, but the athlete piece, we talk a lot about it because she's seen the same thing.
Yeah.
And she's D2 Hall of Fame, national championship, softball, the work ethic, so many similarities. She's also the sister of a veteran. He's the same age I am, Army vet, deployed when she was a teenager. So like she sees the correlation between the two, which she has such a valuable perspective as a future mill spouse. Yikes!
Yeah,
I said it, Taylor. I said
right
it. You're
here.
welcome.
What's the date? It's like August.
It's being recorded right now.
What is the 14th? What is it? 15th?
I don't know. That's not documented. It's fine. But she has a great perspective because the athlete does cross over so much.
Absolutely,
so it's a great piece.
There's so many things about it too. I mean, even kind of like you kind of go into depression when you stop playing a sport.
Yep.
Because just like you said, that the whole thing, like Chris Cather's, that purpose, right? This is my purpose. This is who I am. I tie my identity to this sport or whatever it may be, and you tie your identity to it, and then that's not part of your identity anymore.
And the baseline, and what I like to say about it is like, especially in the veteran space, what are you waking up for tomorrow?
Yeah.
And the 22 a day piece is you have no reason to wake up tomorrow, right? Yeah. The athletes, same thing. You're so ingrained in. This is what I'm waking up to accomplish tomorrow. And when you lose that and you don't rediscover it, that's where that tumbleweed in the wind happens, right? So finding that new purpose, that new mission, but truly the baseline, what are you waking up for tomorrow?
Absolutely. And I mean, you should wake up to live because we're not getting a second shot at this, we're not.
Modern medical advances, you never know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. The way I feel now, I don't know if I want to live to 200 years old. You'll be carrying me around in a water bottle, but this is Brad. It's my buddy Brad. But yeah. So what is like? the things that you see that these guys are coming out, like, is there like 3 or 4 questions that you've seen just over and over again, like when they come to you and say, like, obviously, how do I do it, or how do I get my resume? Those are kind of block and tackling things, but like, what are they like? Like, where's their psychology like when they're like, are they lost? Or are they just
100%? And that was the word. What we see the most is what now, or now what, right? And we actually have that on our website as one of our taglines. We're the now what.
Yeah.
And that's like the biggest piece attached to it, where we do the workouts. I think the workouts are such a great tip of the spear for us, because it's so easy to say, hey man, just come catch a workout with us. We did a workout in June at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, then did a private tour of the stadium. Bring your spouse, bring your kids, come have a good time, family day, right? That's so much easier to get somebody introduced.
Absolutely.
And then you start building that know, like, trust. I talk a lot of shit to people. So like when we're working out, I like start bullshitting with people. And it's like, well, come on back, man. And I'm going to talk shit to you. If you don't come back, I'm going to call your wife, and she's going to come, and I'm going to talk shit. Yeah. So it's like that cycle of just like camaraderie.
Which they're used to.
100%.
Being in the military.
100%, right? And it's one of those, it's just like reigniting that a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the core of it, they don't want to talk about their feelings. They don't want to talk about the mindset. Men are terrible about it.
Absolutely.
Veterans are awful about it. You merge the two together, and it becomes this pride point of, I don't want to show that I'm failing, or I don't want to show this aspect. But it starts with, now I don't know what to do now. Right. And most of the time it's professional. I don't know. It's like 60% of veterans leave their first job in the first 6 months. Whatever that first job is, it's like, oh, this really sucks, I'm out. Yeah. And it becomes a cycle if you can't catch that passion. But at the end of the day, it's re-identifying, or potentially for a lot of us, identifying who you are for yourself. Right. And you see this a lot in like the academy guys, right? The guys the West Point guys are a great example. For all of high school, you're on a track to go to West Point. There's nothing else that matters. You go to West Point, you become an officer, half of them become generals. You're on this track for your entire life. Well, you don't know anything else, right? Athletes are the same exact way, right? So it becomes, well, I don't know what I'm passionate about. I don't know what my hobbies are. Somebody asked me 3 years ago what my hobbies were. Business, working, doing the thing, burning the midnight oil. Like, that was all there was. There was no passion to do anything. Right. So that's where I like to see us as a continuity plan. So many organizations have cohorts. You have your 6-month thing. Yeah. You graduate, yay, rah, rah. And then what? And you're creating that cycle of then what again? Yeah. So most of our programs don't ever end. We don't ever have, like, we have checkpoints, obviously, that we want to have measures of success, but there's no graduation point. It's like, stay with us as long as you need to be around all of our programming, because at the end of the day, and I think most civilians can recognize this, there's going to be another stumbling block. Absolutely. There's going to be another professional development issue you have. There's going to be Susie down the hall that pisses you off, and you don't know how to deal with it. Yeah. Or you deal with it like you did in the military, you chew her ass, you get fired. Yeah. Then what?
Which that's a good point, because I was about to I'm going to interject there, because I was about to say, you've known me now for a little bit. I'm a pretty straightforward guy. I'm going to tell you, if you're being an asshole, you're being an asshole, right? And that to me, when I was in that business, the corporate side, that was very difficult to me, because you'd see people doing a lot of stuff like that. Someone just needs to get their ass chewed out and let's move on and get some business done. And there's that whole, I'll say, politically correctness or whatever it is, it's not real world. Like when you've come out and you've been in Afghanistan in the friggin' trenches, it doesn't translate, and asking someone to come back and now put on, a suit and act like you're,
And a big piece of it, and one of the reasons I joined the military, I was a Dale Carnegie guy.
I love Dale Carnegie. Favorite book.
He had a academy here in Atlanta pre-COVID that I went through because I wasn't friendly enough, truly. I wasn't a great team player as a young, arrogant cop. Yeah. Ended up loving it so much that I went back and taught it. But there's a big piece that was so fortunate for me in so many different capacities of the friendliness. And it is like 7th golden rule is smile. Yeah. How many veterans do you see walking around smiling? Yeah. Right? I know how I look. I'm 250, tattooed, ears pierced, beard, bald. I know my look, right? But it's also 15 years of being developed into being very stern all the time. Yeah. But also sit here and you sit and talk to me. I'm smiling, I'm goofing, right? But it's not something that is inherently going to happen in a business setting.
Absolutely.
Right? So how do we develop that a little bit? How do we get a personality out of the robot? Because the military trains that. They break you down in basic training and train you to be in this little pretty box, This is how you operate. This is what you do. And when you get creative freedom, most veterans don't know how to handle it.
Absolutely.
So kind of pop off a little bit this way, pop off that way, and then all of a sudden you're seeing failures in business you've never seen that before. Yeah. And how do you adjust to that?
Yeah,
it's a great question. As soon as we figure that out,
you'll let me know.
But it's part of the process.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's what we want to highlight for people.
Well, I mean, it's funny because you bringing up Dale Carnegie and How to Make Friends and Influence People. It's one of the greatest. If you have not read that book, it's one of the greatest books. Every young person I ever talk to, anyone that comes in as an intern or like from a mentorship, like read that book because it's the basics of how to humanity, how to be a decent person. Right? It's easy for you to smile, compliment people. It's so like, I guess it's common sense, but like they say, common sense isn't really common anymore. It's such a great book, and Dale Carnegie was such a master at that. And that, like, even like, so what? I'm not bashing the military or whatever. Everybody calm down. Everyone just calm down.
Get out the pitchforks, boys.
Just calm down. But, from an exit program, I know talking with Chris and some other people are like, good luck. Like when he's like, yeah, I'm done. It's like, good luck. What are they doing? Is there anything that like says, okay, hey, you spent 20 years with us. Thank you so much for your service. What do you want to do? Here's kind of
a DD 214.
Is that
so? No, and I'll be very blunt about it because I think it's trash personally. Yeah. And when I came back from Afghanistan, from the time I left my sofa, or the sands of Afghanistan, 5 days later, I'm back on my sofa. And when I left, I had my ex-wife, her best friend, her daughter, my goddaughter, and my ex-wife's sister were living in this house. I leave for a year. And I come back into an ecosystem of 4 women that have their daily routine, all their things. I had no concept of adjusting. And I had petitioned the commanding general of where we came back from, or where we came back to, and I'm like, hey man, let me keep my dudes for 30 days. Don't send them out. 30 days. That's all I'm asking. So we can have a little bit of a conversation, transition plan. When I got back, everybody was gone because leaders leave last out, right? So I had to do a handoff over there, come back, everybody's gone. And it's like, sent my dudes off back into like the civilian world. And then it was somewhere around 12 divorces, a couple drug overdoses, DUIs. Yeah. Because, you just let these dudes that are used to raging every day, now you're back out, and that's just a deployment. So when it comes into retirement, they have these transition assistant programs where, hey, think about this. Get this retirement piece ready. Get this disability form ready. And you can have a great career. We're working with the colonel in Tampa, 30 years. Great career. Did everything right up to the day. Paperwork's perfect, retirement's perfect, the money that's going to be coming in, the disability, everything's done perfect in a nice little bow. The next day he gets out and is like, and then what? That's the exact question. He did a skill bridge program. That first job, he hated it. Couldn't deal with it. Couldn't understand the concepts. And then what? And he couldn't answer that piece. So for 2 years, he just like stumbled. This was before we met him. And he just like stumbled around, nothing passionate. That's where the military fails. Yeah. That's where I don't see any really good programs. What we're trying to develop, I think we do a good job. Yeah. But
that's what you're filling that void. Obviously, that's why you're doing it. But I was just really kind of like curious of like, hey, is there? Because I've heard, not from what you just said, I've heard that over and over and over 100%. Again. Like, hey,
but also
on the ass.
Yeah,
good luck, dude.
But it's also when you retire, to make it relatable to the corporate world, you retire after 30 years. And you have a great career, great pension, great things. Are they going to call you next week to check on you? No. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So yeah, that's fair.
In the military's defense, to actually defend it for once, it's just like a business. Yeah. And you're just a number of a large corporation. It is the most diverse workplace in the country by far. But at the end of the day, you're still just a number. And it's going to continue before you. It's going to continue after you. If you're in it, it doesn't matter. If you're out of it, it doesn't matter. Why should there be an expectation for them to call you next week? The expectation should be something should be there to catch. Yeah. And again, that's why we serve veterans and veteran supporters. So every program we have, if you're a veteran supporter, you're a mother, a brother, a sister, a sibling, I don't care. Yeah. If you just give a shit about veterans, come to our program. Yeah. Because I want a civilian perspective in the room. Most of my mentors are all civilians. I love my Army dudes. They can teach me a lot. But the dude that's been in the corporate world for 30 years can teach me something I'm never going to experience, right?
Absolutely.
So we want civilians in the room or veteran supporters. I hate the word civilian because like dehumanizes it.
Yeah, I'm offended.
Well, you should be. I can tell. I'm a very offendable guy.
You've offended me.
You know, but I mean, to the point, you're a veteran supporter, family that's veterans, right? So why would I not want you in the room?
Yeah.
I need you there for us to be able to move into that space. I need your perspective.
Right.
I need to be salty as
you need to be salty,
right?
I'll tell anyone out there, I don't vet, non-vet, whatever you're doing in life. I mean, what you learn is the real world is about what ideas you can create or solve or add value to. That's it. I mean, so your opinion of something, your idea of something, if you believe in something enough, right? Even as veterans coming out with all these great ideas and they have good ideas. I mean, there's investors and people out there that need people that have the ideas and are willing to execute it.
Yes, and. So yes, and is my favorite phrase.
Yes, and.
And honestly, I learned it in therapy because and me always being right. 15 years of always being right. As a cop, I was always right.
Yeah.
What I'm telling you is right.
Oh, absolutely.
In the military as an officer, so like I had 100 dudes reporting to me. I'm right. You're wrong. And that's just how it was. So going through couples therapy actually is one of those how do I communicate better. I think that's a huge failure of a lot of veterans is not taking the time to communicate better.
Yeah.
So our therapist was like, instead of saying but, say yes and. Don't be immediately disagreeable. So yes and. How do we learn that? Yeah. How do we learn that? And we're not taught to network in the military.
Absolutely.
We're not taught what high net worth individuals look like, right? You might be worth 8 figures. A veteran could never identify an 8-figure person unless you have the flaunty Rolex, Ferrari. We can recognize that, but those are also usually not the wealthy dudes, right? The dudes flashing it. So how do we get into a world where we can network, we understand somebody might buy into our idea for advancement? We're not taught that.
Right.
That's so much of what we want to focus on is like, here's the room you should be in. Here's the dude you should be. Here's how Rick, the guy that introduced us, great example. He and I met in an organization that's a professional organization. We hit it off. I made fun of him for being a Marine. The dude was like Schwarzkopf's right hand in the Gulf War. He's not like just a Marine, right? But every time I see him, there's a crayon joke.
Yeah.
And he's 30-something years older than I am.
Yeah.
Great mentor to me, right? But at the end of the day, he's done something really well to learn. How do you use that network that he did have?
Absolutely.
Transition it into this space, and he's a very successful businessman.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm still going to hand him a crayon every time I see him.
Yeah, but that's the lesson. Yeah. The lesson is you and I'm no better than you, you're no better than me. And I'm not trying to say that there's certain people that aren't intellectually higher, lower, whatever it may be. But the reality of when you can sit across from a person, and if you were a Marine or in the Army or wherever you were, and you've been put in front of death, right? You've faced death, which a lot of these people have never faced. Like, you're credible. You have something to offer, and that's just a man across from you, or that's just a woman or a man. Let's be inclusive here, right?
Or them, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. But whatever. Let's go there. But whatever. And when you realize that, your real human connections are at a real human level.
Yeah.
That's why people who like you, Dale Carnegie, read the book, right? How to make friends and influence people. When someone likes you and they believe and then they know you're trustworthy and whatever, they'll help you get where you want. I think we all want to come out like, oh, I'm a badass. I've killed whatever people. Okay, awesome, dude. These people don't care. No one cares. You got to figure out.
That's the bourbon around the campfire, right?
Exactly.
But in the corporate world, the business world, that part doesn't matter.
Right.
And it's so fascinating. In the military, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to network. You get assigned your senior raider, all your people above you. Hey, go to this guy. And they point at, go to this colonel. He's the one that can give you that answer.
Yeah.
Go to this lieutenant colonel or this general. Yeah. She's the one that can give you that answer. You don't have to network. You don't have these lacking of clarity points because it is that streamlined for you, which is great. But it's structured, streamlined. You have this track to walk on. You're always going to have an answer.
Yeah.
That's the part of like when you start looking at the psychology of like why are veterans failing or why are veterans not finding this piece. It's like that's a really interesting learning point that nobody has talked about. I was never taught that of like, hey, you should look at this capacity. Go learn this. Go learn Dale Carnegie.
Right.
I was just fortunate enough to have a career before the military where I learned these things. I I learned how to talk to a drug dealer and then turn around and talk to the mayor about it.
Yeah.
Right? That infinitely benefits me in business and the military and so many different capacities.
Absolutely. You have to be relatable, regardless of who you are or where you came from, what you're doing. You have to be relatable. And, we all come from socioeconomic different areas, all that stuff, whatever, race, whatever it is. But, I mean, if you're relatable, we're all human. We all get up, eat shit, do whatever we're doing. It's whatever your motivation or your attitude is that I think what you're trying to do makes you different. Yeah. I mean, that's it. There's no magic to that. So
100%.
Anybody who's vet, non-vet, whatever, you want to be an entrepreneur, welcome to, you're not going to know what the fuck you're doing from day one. I'm living proof, right?
100%. Guilty. Let me tell you about those failures. Oh, man.
You're going to lose money. Some people aren't going to like you. If you're consistent in your personality, you're consistent in your deliverable, and you're honest and trustworthy and hardworking, I don't give a shit whether you're selling crayons, Rick, or, you're in the McBastard studio doing a podcast that you have no idea what podcasting is or never did. The point is I think we all go through that. It's different when you come out of a structured environment. But when you get pushed into a business world, or if you took me in the military now, I'd be terrible. Like they would say, get Gomer Pyle and get him out, right? Full Metal Jacket. So
Private Pyle,
I love it.
Absolutely.
I love that guy. What's the Marine guy who's
Gunny?
Yeah, God, he's awesome.
Absolutely.
But I think the encouragement, and this is just my take. We're here talking to Zack, and he knows more shit about this than I would ever know, and he's doing a good job. We're all human, and you got to set some goal regardless. And sometimes, to be honest with you, only you can set a damn goal. Someone can give you a direction. Someone can, give you an intro. But if you're sitting around the campfire, like whatever, those are the moments I want to be, because that's when I know truly who you are, and that's how I connect with you. That's how you and I become friends.
Remove the pressure away from
Absolutely.
that. We don't have enough men are super guilty of this in general. I see it in veterans all the time. We don't have grace attached to it. We have so many expectations, especially the high achieving guys. Yeah. We have so many expectations to accomplish something or fix something or go and do, but we don't have the grace to take in the military, tactical pause, right? We called it SEALs in the Army, stop, look, and listen, SLL. So simple, stop, look, and listen, right? Take a tactical pause long enough to have grace with yourself to I don't have to know the answer today.
Absolutely.
Entrepreneurship 101, right?
Yeah.
But we're not used to that in so many ways. But if you don't do it and you just keep ramming your head against the wall, you're
Absolutely.
not going to succeed at anything.
Absolutely. But also, I think that dudes are dudes. I mean, we are what we are. People can try to make us sophisticated. We're friggin' like heathens. We've always been heathens. We'll always be fucking heathens. It is what it is. You can put a suit on or whatever. But I think that I don't know. I just think that the best advice I can ever give anyone, and I have to do it myself sometimes, is take interest in people. Like genuine interest. Like I'm interested. That's cool what you're doing. I mean, it's cool. Like the experiences you have, why you're sitting here. It makes sense what you're doing because you have that experience here. Like take genuine interest. If some guy's a bird watcher and you really don't give a shit about it, that's fine. I'm not that interested in that either. No. But if you take interest in it and you let people tell you you learn a lot, first of all. And then you may find out this person you thought really is a dumbass is actually a damn genius.
You're really preaching to Carnegie. Be interested, not interesting.
I'm pushing it.
It's huge, man, and it's so fascinating. That one thing I love about podcasting, curiosity. All you have to do is be curious. And Joe Rogan put it best. And if Joe Rogan, of all podcasting people you can take advice from, people ask him, why do you have all these random people on your show? He's like, it's interesting. Yeah. I just have a 3-hour conversation with somebody I find interesting. And I'm curious to know, he doesn't agree, he doesn't disagree. He's like, but why do you think that way? Yeah. Or yes, and why do you think that way, right? And that's the piece. It's just be interested in the human. Right?
Absolutely.
You don't have to give a crap about bird watching, right? Because I really don't care if it's a peacock or a cardinal or whatever. But at the end of the day, why does the person care about it? Where's the psychology behind it? What's the interest drawn? Could be so many different factors attached to it. To your point, you're going to learn so much about that human.
Absolutely.
I love it. It's fascinating to me.
Why I'm on the bird thing is so my dad, he's an ex-military. He's gone now, but ex-military Army guy. And I came home from college and I found he loved Miller Lights. He drank about 24 a day. And I came home and he's on the deck and he's got this PVC pipe contraction and whatever, and he's drilling holes in it. And I'm like, Dad, what are you doing, man? He's like, I hate these fucking squirrels, man. I'm going to create a bird feeder that squirrels can't get in it. And I'm like, Dad, you're insane, dude. You got to stop drinking Miller Lite and whatever. So the bird thing's a joke to me. He went on to create 5 patents in the bird area. So now there's actually meaning behind that. I don't give a shit about birds either, but kudos to a guy that knew nothing about birds, hated squirrels, and created the first, electronic squirrel.
He's not the one who put the slinky on the bird feeder, did he?
It's called the Yankee flipper. So when the squirrels obviously way more mass than birds bone structure really light. When a squirrel landed on it, a battery kicked in, pulled it down, and slug it off.
No joke.
And this is 25 years. I mean, he made millions off of it.
Oh, I bet he did.
But my point in that is, so here's a dude that's drinking 24 Miller Lights a day that just, I mean, he can do it. Fuck it. We can all do it. So,
dude, that's like a stoner's dream right there. I was thinking about this, and it was really bothering me. Those fucking squirrels, man. I love that. That's like true brilliance right there, man.
I don't know. Just start drinking Miller Lights and just think. But that's how most ideas, people that aren't like, most ideas, start from these damn squirrels are eating my bird seed.
Important to note, Army guy.
Yeah, he's an Army. Yeah.
Love it.
He was Army. He's Army. He told me he wanted to. He was like all-American football guy. He literally was like Captain America, but he wanted to go into the astronaut program, and he applied for that. But he's like, man, my math skills are just, I'm out. So he got to that point, and he said, I'm out. So
that's funny.
Anything's doable.
I'm impressed by the squirrel slinger.
Oh, yeah, dude, bird
feeder. Awesome.
It's called the Yankee Flippers, #1 bird feeder. And then they went on, him and his partner, a guy named Paul Artigue. Paul, if you're listening out there, Paul's still around, but they both jointly. Paul was kind of the engineer behind it. My dad was kind of the master, squirrel hater. But
so our mutual friend Rick, he has a slightly different way of dealing with squirrels. Might be kind of suppressed, kind of quiet, 300 blackout-ish.
Yeah, my father out there, Gary, I won't say your last name so so PETA can't come get you. He's ex-Vietnam guy, super great guy, but he gets rid of the squirrels as well. So get yourself a friendly bird feeder and
or a bayonet,
either one, old
whatever,
school, bomb
style,
whatever. 308, whatever it takes. But well, man, I really, so in closing, because I love this conversation, what we're doing, because this is kind of, I like bullshitting like that. I love giving people shit. So you love giving people shit. We're like perfect. We don't ever want to gang up on someone because they're going to be at a disadvantage. But like if you're out there and like tell the people that are trying to do this, like how to get started, how to get into your process. And, what to expect. And I think that's important because that's really what the show's about, other than, beer drinking and bird feeders.
I appreciate it, man. ATL vets were born here in Atlanta, so I wanted to play on the branding. Yeah. But the ATL stands for Advancing the Line. So all our collaborations we're going to Tampa next week, so we're advancing the line for veterans in Tampa.
Oh, that's good.
A big piece of our branding is how do we highlight somebody else? We love building stages and putting people on them. Put a magnifying glass on it. And that's our goal across the country. So atlvets.org, quick and easy. We have events across. A big piece we're doing right now is atlvets.org /22 a day. I believe our biggest piece is bringing that new purpose, that new passion into this space to, at the end of the day, combat veteran suicide. Right. And we're taking a totally different perspective attached to it. That campaign that we're running right now is really about $22 a month to save a veteran's life.
I love that.
And that's a big piece of where we want to, in all business and entrepreneurship, you got to have revenue. So one of our pieces attached to how do we continue that cycle to show even in non-war times that veterans are cared about. They are people that are supported. For our programs, we offer virtual for everything. So we have an events page on our website. Everything has a virtual component, so you can tune in from wherever you are in the country. If there's a city that needs us or wants us to come out, right now we're in Tampa, Huntsville, Nashville, Atlanta, obviously, Norfolk, D.C., and then expanding into Texas this year, trying to figure out if we want to do DFW or Houston. I prefer Austin, but not much of a veteran presence there from what I've heard. But we're just a little bit over a year old and expanding very quickly. So if there's a city out there that could use us to have a presence, I'd love to expand more and really just get out there and serve.
I love it, man. I'm proud of you for doing that, and it's an honorable thing, and it's a good thing, and that's great when you can get involved in something that you have a passion about as well. So, but you also have, let's talk about the corporate side, or people that want to get involved from like a speaking side, or someone wants to come and talk. I know that I saw like your vet ops side. Yep. I don't know everything about that, but do you want to talk a little bit about vet ops and what that means? Because I wanted to get that in, so I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I appreciate the plug, man. So this is the part that's always like all the things.
Yeah.
So vet ops, veterans optimizing professional success. The military loves acronyms. So a bunch of acronyms tossed about, man. Got to keep true to form. But vet ops is for lack of a better term, it's a mastermind. We do 2 in-person workshops in Atlanta, 2 virtual sessions every month. The workshops in Atlanta are streamed. Again, everything's virtual. That's our $97 a month program, where it's truly a mastermind, where we have people that come in and talk. We have the Fortune 50s of Atlanta do some workshops for us, roundtable, masterminding conversations to really solve whatever professional development piece that the veteran's struggling with. We serve workforce development and entrepreneurship. At its core, I love entrepreneurship, but workforce development, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a guy that just wants to live in somebody else's construct, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, so it happens every day.
100%. And we want to be able to take those veterans all the same and give them those same professional development pieces. But Vet Ops is a growing program. We just got some congressional support.
That's awesome.
I'm stoked about it, man. There's a lot there where, again, it's for that high-achieving veterans ready to take action. That first action is an opt-in for $97 a month. You'd be amazed how many people give pushback on that.
Yeah.
For that little bit of price, they're like, oh, no, you should be doing this for free for veterans. I'm like, that's the mindset we're breaking.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a part of this, veteran supporter, could be a part of this piece of it, because I think that's where real conversations can have. It starts with something as simple as an opt-in like that.
Yeah. And I tell everybody, invest in your own education. I've gone through that. I've got 4 kids and they've been to college and all that. I've got one going to college. And what I tell them is like, when you're done, you're not done. Like just because 100%. You come out, you're not done. It's when your real learning starts. And so whatever that is, you need to invest in your own education on whatever.
Not like organized education either. I have a dual MBA, business operations and security management. Okay, like I'm educated academically, but at the end of the day, I'm paying for coaches. I'm paying for mentors. I'm paying to be in masterminds and other groups to whatever degree, whether it's my therapist and I'm learning how to communicate better with Taylor, or if it's the
Taylor, I'm sorry, Taylor, I brought this shit up. All right, I don't want any punishment.
Oh, she's gonna fuck you up. I'm gonna laugh and I'm gonna watch. We're gonna put that on World Star and your YouTube. No, but joking aside, like the education piece in the military, we're given so much education, so much. My first 2 years were training. So you're given so much professional development, education, all these things.
Right.
You can't let it stop there.
Absolutely.
So go invest in that more.
Absolutely. I had some other thought that I was going to probably. Oh, I have. In the honor of freedom, we are in the United States of America, where consumers should be able to do whatever they want. So, as my I guess daily call out to Chuck Schumey, I'm going to put a Zen in for you. This is America. We should be able to have nicotine. It's good for your testosterone, and Lord knows I need it because I'm old.
I heard that today. They've taken, literally heard it today. I was scrolling podcasts and heard nicotine enhances testosterone.
Dude, right here. You heard it on the McBastard studio here.
Taylor should know. I should start with Zen.
Taylor, you need to get Zack a case is in 6 millis. But I just
she's gonna kill you for that one. That right there, that's where you cross the line.
It's good for you. It's good for you. Should I dip for like 30 years? My kids finally said, "Dad, your gums are gonna rot out. At least do that." So thanks, kids. They cared about me. But anyways, just some odd shit we do here. But so guys, today you've heard Zack Knight with atlvets.org. Check him out. It means advance the line. At first, it fit well with Atlanta, but looking in advance the line for veterans. He's doing some good things, helping people get back into the workplace, help them find their passion. And I was really honored that you came on. I mean, we love veterans and any of the armed services. I know you got a thing against Navy guys and give them shit all the time, but all you Navy guys, so, I didn't let them talk bad about you. I didn't let them talk about you. But any closing thoughts before we go?
Man, overall, thank you for having me. This is awesome. Awesome studio here, y'all. If y'all haven't seen it, obviously tune into the video portion.
Yeah.
But no, man, I appreciate this piece. I appreciate you helping expand and supporting the veteran space, and looking forward to so much more.
Absolutely. We've had some amazing people on with just doing some great things, and
Lots of Army guys, I've heard.
these are, yeah, that's right. Green Berets. Oh, we have a Marine. We got to get the crayon guys on, so we'll have to get the Marines out here.
They can enhance the drawing on the wall over here.
No one's carved anything in there.
Hang on, I have a knife
last time
on me.
I had the other knife, and I was wondering, that bastard carved something in my chair. Well, folks, you heard it here on the McBastard studio on the SaltyMF GOAT Podcast. Till next time, let's go.